Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR. I'm your host, Terry Ryan Jr. And Lucy in Waterloo wants to know who's the best player that I ever played against. I played against some unreal players, some Hall of Famers, played with and against. Obviously went 11th in my draft, Jerome McGinley. That's obviously a famous player and story. That I actually got drafted ahead of him. There was more to that. Jerome was still kind of finding himself. He was a bit gangly, and I did have great stats in my draft year. We both played for Team Pacific together, and honestly, at the time, it wasn't that outrageous. Really, it wasn't. He played for Kamloops too, and they were really deep. Myself and Damon Lankow were on Tri-City. We lost out to them. We took them 6 games, and they won the Memorial Cup that year. Me and Lanks definitely played a bit more because our team. We had the most ice time on our team. We were both in our draft years. They had guys a year and 2 older, right? And 3, right? Like me and Lanks played a lot. We were 17 in a league that had 20 and 21-year-olds after Christmas. So, there Darcy Tucker was 2 years older than us. Jason Strudwick, Nat Dominicelli, Nolan Baumgartner, Tyson Nash. They had a lot of wily vets. And we had a great team for junior and Tri-Cities, but I think maybe that Jerome was buried on their third line a little bit. I'm certainly not making excuses. I think I had a great year, but Jerome McGinley ended up being in the Hall of Fame, and we all knew he'd be good. I don't know if anybody saw that when we were 16 and 17. Although, like I said, he was on my team in Team Pacific, and I could have told, he worked hard. He was a force. He was getting the job done. He just didn't look the swiftest doing it. But he's not who I want to talk about. That would be obvious, Jerome McGinley, because I played, with him and against him. And fuck, yeah, looking back, yeah, if you had told me he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, it wouldn't have seemed outrageous, man. The guy worked his fucking nuts off, and he was just kind of coming into his own. Anyway, that's way back, 16, 17. It's high school, right? Anyway, my first NHL game was against Philadelphia. It was about 8 or 9 games into the season in 95, 96, I guess it would be. No, 96, 97. 96, 97. I was 19. It was my 19-year-old season. So I often talk about this season, and if you read my book, you'd see I went back to the Red Deer Rebels. I went back to the Rebels in February, so I was most of the year practicing in Montreal. I also had a concussion the year before. It was nice to get a bit of a rest, but I did. I Montreal, and their words, right out of camp, because I tried hard. I didn't have the best camp. It certainly wasn't the worst. I was okay. Scored a few in front of the net, just like being there, like bouncing off me, because I went to the right areas. I remember my skating still feeling a bit clunky. And, there was some injuries, and so I made it. But made it in the sense of when you're 19, now I think it's changed this year with the new CBA, but you couldn't get sent down to the American Hockey League. You had to either go to junior or play in the NHL. So the Habs figured, rather than, their words, Mario Tremblay said, I know if you go down, you're going to probably answer the bell. And now that you've been drafted and you've got a lot of fights and stuff, people will be coming at you for that. You had 50 goals last year. What do you have to gain? Maybe a Memorial Cup, maybe something like that. But we could send you back at the trade deadline after Christmas if we want to go that route. And, of course, they did. And I played 4 games that year. It was awesome. And my first game, I'll never forget this because I didn't really know Sheldon Surrey and Eric Bertrand, who ended up playing a bit for the Habs, but they were playing in Albany, and they came up to visit me because it was really not that far, and we were going out and we were having a few beers, and I didn't realize I was going to be playing the game. It had gone 8 or 9 games in. Something happened the night before. Maybe there were injuries or whatever it was, and Jacques Laperriere, of all people, he's the one who told me. Not of all people, he was just, Jacques worked with the defenseman. He was technically one of our assistant coaches. But he wasn't part of my everyday routine. He was on the ice with the D. And I'd work more with Steve Shutt and Yvonne Cormier. And, of course, Alan Vigneault was our head. No, God, Mario Tremblay came in. Mario Tremblay, that was before Vigneault. Mario Tremblay was the coach. Actually, let me wear his number 14, which was wild. And anyway, so I didn't really know I was playing. And when I say a few beers, yes, the team had a game the next day. I didn't think I was playing, and I literally mean a few. Like I was going out for a bite to eat and with Sheldon and Eric, and whatever it was while I was at the meal. I remember there was no text messaging, but I had a cell phone, and that's what happened. I believe it was Mr. LePerriere that phoned. I ended up talking to him one way or the other. I just can't remember the process of being on the phone, but or where. But I think we were at a restaurant. I think it was called De Salvio or Da Vinci. That's where we were. So I got the call to play, and it was going to be against Philadelphia, which was awesome because I was a big fan of Eric Lindros, and I got drafted along with I mentioned Joe McGinley, Shane Doan, Radek Dvorak, Chad Kilger. We were of the ilk that, I guess you could use the term power forward. And these guys, so Lindros played with Jean Leclerc and Michael Renberg, and they were like real big, fucking strong. Like I remember looking at Leclerc just because they practiced before us, and on game day the next morning. And Sheldon and Eric stayed up. I remember we had a nice bite to eat, and the boys stayed up. I got them tickets the next day, so they came to my first NHL game. It's wild. Sheldon ended up playing for the team and setting a record. I think Sheldon has the record for power play goals I think maybe even goals in a season. You'd find that wild, but look into it. I think Sheldon had 27 or 28 for the Habs. Anyway, yeah, so that's ironic. But, so I went to the rink the next day, and I was kind of nervous, but I remember being able to just walk across. Again, who did I know? I knew somebody there in Philly. Lanks wasn't there yet. He was still in Tampa Bay. He ended up playing in Philadelphia. Anyway, we all know people, right? Maybe it was Brant Myers. I don't know who it was, but if I could, I used to go over and check out, when the guys left and check out their sticks. They'd let you do that and shit. So I'd go over, and they left, and I remember Leclerc, just being really surprised. And even back then, it felt really, really heavy. Sticks were heavier back then. This thing felt like a fucking log, man. And I remember Lindros had the black, and he shot right the big black. What kind of fucking stick was it? The Bauer. He had a Bauer stick. I remember that commercial. When the presence is felt, check out what he's wearing. And I don't know. Anyway, I was real nervous for the game, but almost I was so happy nervous. I was giddy, And even then, I like to take a pregame nap, but if I could, I get so much anxiety, and especially on day games and on game days. And on this particular day, I'm playing my first game. So, the way I remember it is staying at the rink. I might have gone back because I was staying at the Hotel Novotel across the street. I still hadn't been. They might have told me that I made the team, but I had to find a place. And I think you got a month or a month and a half to do that. And I ended up living with Darcy Tucker. Anyway, Tux we're in the same position. Tux didn't play many of the first games I think he only played 40 that year overall. Maybe he didn't play much when he got in. I think they lost in getting rid of him so early. Darcy Tucker was so determined and such a great player, and he'd just come second in the Western League and scoring twice. I played against him enough to know that this fucking guy's going to burn you, and he did. Anyway, Tux. Anyway, yeah. So I was just staying across. So I as I recall, we went through the skate. And that's when I remember talking to Jacques and talking to Mario and them really calling me in and, going over everything. Was I ready? And of course, I'm going to say yes. I don't know if anybody's actually ever ready for that at 19, but I was as ready as I was going to be. I basically just went to the hotel to get my suit and come back. I might have gotten to the rink at 12:30 or 1. I ate my pregame at like 11:30, then came to the rink at 12:30 or 1. And I remember them coming out on you come out on the benches before. Lindros coming out, man, and he was built like a Greek fucking god. I don't know if people realize who are younger than me, because I'm 5 years younger than him, but when he was coming on the scene, he was such a presence. In 1991, Eric Lindros played for Team Canada in the Canada Cup. Now, a lot of people in Canada might look at that Paul Henderson goal in 1972, and that'll define, their childhood or something. Someone my age would look at the 1987 goal, Gretzky to Lemieux, Canada Cup, and the big goal. YouTube it if you don't know what I'm talking about. You should if you're any kind of hockey fan, not only Canadian fan. Just because it's a historical goal, Gretzky to Lemieux, two of the best ever to do it. And anyway, Eric Lindros in 1991 had just been drafted. Long story, if you want, just look at the doc. I'm not going to get into it, but he was drafted. He hadn't played in the NHL yet. He was about to get traded, or maybe he had already been from Quebec to Philly. Whatever the case, he had not played in the NHL yet at all. He was a junior player, and they picked him for Team Canada. Okay, so even think now. Remember that first year when Crosby was a rookie in the NHL, they took him, I think, 06. You know, in 2010, he scored the big goal, but he was like a big player on the team. McDavid, they didn't have a chance. But just to explain how rare it was, you know, there's young players that are rookies, that are generational, like Crosby, that might get a sniff and be an extra, or be like, I don't remember who else was young on the team. Looking back, I don't know. I can't think of any other. Like Connor Bedard could have played for Canada this year, you know, and he's this second year in the league, and he didn't. He's you know, somewhat generational. Who knows? A lot of people are down on him, but you know, the guy's still young, and the team sucks. So I think both will improve. How good he is, we don't really know yet. And Nathan McKinnon turned it on in his third year, so you don't know. McKinnon's another example, but like Lindros he didn't play one game in the NHL, and he played for Canada, and he fucking hit everything. It was thunderous hits, scored some huge goals. Like, I remember going, this is fucking crazy to watch this guy skate around with the best players on the planet. Imagine not having played an NHL game. That's a stepping stone enough. Now you're going to play with the best on the planet in a winner takes all, best on best. I mean, it was just fucking incredible. You know, I really expected a lot, and let me tell you, he didn't disappoint. They didn't disappoint. So John LeClair, I'm going to tell you now. Let's look at this, because like I'm considered a power forward given my penalty minutes, and when Central Scouting measured me, I put foam in my socks, and I taped weights to the inside of my legs when they weighed me that year. So in my draft year, I think even on some hockey cards, on Hockey DB, I think it says 6'2", 207. Not the case. I'm slightly over 6 foot. I'm in between 6 foot and 6'1", and then I was like 185, 190. Fuck, amazing. Not that I wasn't a power forward, though. I certainly threw my weight around, and I went to the front of the net. It's just that some guys, you know, I was playing a big man's game. John LeClair, let me see this. I just remember seeing his wrists, and I couldn't fucking believe how big they were. His 6'3", 226. Anybody who knows this guy or played with or against him, you know what I'm talking about. His forearms are massive. No matter how much working out I would ever do, I could take fucking 10 rounds of steroids at once. They're not going to get that big. I couldn't believe how fucking strong he was. And I fucking started the game, if you can believe it. I actually, it was one of the games that they let me play a little bit, oddly enough, being my first one. And I remember being so nervous that just instinct took over, and it was just like block everything out. It was so overwhelming, especially when they announced the Canadiens at the start of the game, and, you know, fucking lights go out, and I couldn't even get a hold of myself. I was skating around, man. I remember goosebumps, and it was so overwhelming. I started laughing. I was laughing. It was just like, this is fucking nuts. But anyway, fucking LeClair. Now, let's see Michael Renberg. Let's see how big that guy was. 6'2", 215. And for good measure, let's see Lindros. That's a true power forward. 6'4", 230, right? And these guys mashed. And they were talented. They were skilled. And it only lasted for a while, because a few of them, they all got injured at some point, almost tragically, Lindros, because Lindros got a few concussions, and he kept playing. And, you know, the latter part of his career, if you're a little bit younger than me, I don't think you really know the true Eric Lindros. And for anybody way younger than me, you definitely don't know the true Eric Lindros. This guy was, you talk about hype. He was fucking Gavin McKenna, Connor McDavid, Connor Bedard rolled up in a ball. He was all of it. There was nobody bigger in the sports world. He was fucking huge. He was tough. He was coming in like, Wendell Clark went first overall and was tough, right? That's a little bit before me. I was 7 or 8 years old. But I'm telling you, there was nobody with the level of Lindros was the best hitter, the best fighter, and the best scorer by a landslide of everybody he was drafted with. I'm not exaggerating. The best, the toughest, the hardest hitter. It was fucking nuts. And sadly enough, the year that he got MVP and he won the scoring, he was tied, I think, with Jaromir Jagr in 94, 95. It was a lockout year. I know there's some iteration to this or some truth to this. I don't know if he tied or he was close. I believe he ended up getting the MVP. Maybe they tied and he had less goals or whatever it was, but you check his stats that year. He was up there in the top of the NHL scoring, and he was a force. And they lost in the final, and so he never got that elusive cup that generational players tend to get. But his career got cut short early, concussions and everything. He was just such a beast. Everything was always hurting. He always had ice bags on. But on top of that, he was just a great looking dude in the peak of the hockey hair era, and he would be, on the covers of magazines, just ripped. And I don't know. To me, people remember at around the same time, Tiger Woods coming in to golf, and like one of the first guys that he couldn't have been the first, but at least the first big timer like that came in and like had a workout regimen and like pumped iron and the term golf for me, I never associated with athlete until I saw Tiger Woods. And I think he kind of was a bit of an innovator that way. I mean, there must have been people came before them with the idea, if I work on my arms, I'm going to have bigger muscles, I hit the ball further. I mean, maybe not. I don't know golf like a lot of people listening to this do, but I know Tiger Woods definitely introduced a new level of athleticism. Well, definitely that was Eric Lindros. I wouldn't know how to, I couldn't over exaggerate it enough. Whatever I say isn't enough. Like, he was the guy, and he was Team Canada, and he fucking in World Juniors, and he went to Oshawa and just mashed everybody, and he won the scoring by like 8 gazillion points, and he was fucking a model. No, not fucking a model. I'm sure he did fuck models, but he was a model-looking fucking beast, man. And he was in the peak of his career. Like I said, I think he's 5 years old. Well, if I went in the 95 draft and he's playing for Canada in 91, he's 5 years older than me. So he would have been like in his prime, before he got hurt or anything. And I played against Gretzky. I watched Mario Lemieux. I didn't get one shift, but I watched Mario Lemieux with my own eyes. It's tough for me not to say that. Lemieux had 4 goals. It was his. It was the first or second time. First time I think he said he was going to retire, and Lemieux played in Montreal, and he scored 4 that night. But it was after his back, and he was starting to. I mean, he was brilliant, and I think that would be my answer if you had to put in and again, I played against Gretzky and he had a hat trick. It was exhibition. And Gretzky was at the very end of his career, though. It was the end of it was the last year he played. So it wasn't Gretzky in his prime. It was Lemieux as what? Lemieux in 96, 97. So I suppose Lemieux was like 28, 29. And I didn't get on the ice, so I can't say I played against him in that sense. But I was on the Montreal Canadiens. I watched him. And so the first answer would be Lemieux for obvious reasons. He was just Lemieux. But actually get out there and play like numerous shifts against and know going into the corner what it's like to feel a hit from these guys. Eric Lindros, like, he hit me in the corner, and I watched him on the ice and how quick he was and how hockey IQ and passing that biscuit and taking one-timers and just dominating. And he was faster than most out there. He definitely was the biggest presence. He was the biggest hitter that night, and just his shot was fucking so hard. Even amongst all great NHLers, Eric Lindros in his prime was the most impressive thing that I've seen as an athlete, as a hockey player. I mean, other sports, it's hard to really compare without, being a fan. I'm out there, I'm on the ice, I'm putting my gear on, I'm a first-round pick. I came from Mount Pearl as a blue chip prospect. I flew across the planet, the country to play. I had great stats in junior. I go to Tri-Cities and I go to Montreal, and I'm a first round. So I come out there. I'm his peer technically, but I'm telling you that I was blown away. I was blown away with this guy, the presence, the talent. I don't think he fought that night. Not that he wouldn't, but it was almost scary when he went to hit. and how good he was with the puck after he did that. And I'd never seen anything like it. I don't know if we will. I threw those out there with my younger buddies, and they said Brady Tkachuk. No. With all due respect to Brady Tkachuk, no. For every big Jamie Benn I can think of, Jamie Benn led the league in scoring one year, but no. And I love Jamie Benn, but no. So, Lucy, in Waterloo, I'm telling you, that's my answer. Outside of the Marilyn Mew thing, it would be Eric Lindros. And for those of you that think that I'm maybe even romanticizing this a little bit, a lot of people romanticize the past, right? Nostalgia can be a tricky, funny thing, but I'm not. Check it out. Go back. Eric Lindros, one of the best players to ever put on a pair of skates. Folks, thanks for listening. This has been Tales with TR, episode 265A. I'll be back real soon with another episode. Hopefully a guest, but I'm not really sure. It's been a busy motherfucking summer. Thanks for listening. If you're downtown St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, you want to head out. You want to check out George Street, why wouldn't you go to Trinity Pub, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, Martini Bar, Greensleeves, and of course the Bull and Barrel if you want a bite to eat. You want to hang out, why not try Loose Tie, why not try Blue on Water, and why not try Wedgwood Cafe, who also do catering. You want strength and balance for the body and mind? Go to Ryan Power and Power Conditioning. Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations here. St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Kenmount Road, one's on Torbay Road. Live, Laugh, Lube, Crown Cabinets. Just fucking do it, will ya? They're the best goddamn name in cabinets. Carpet Factory, laying the carpet for your community. GNS Construction, laying the groundwork for your community if your community happens to be Edmonton, Alberta. True Hockey, take what's yours. And Mugsy Jeans, I loves me Mugsy Jeans. Thanks for listening, folks. I'll be back. 2 shakes of a lamb's tail with more stories. Thanks for listening.